welcome to episode, I think we're on 13 of BurnCast. Everybody knows me, I'm Cindy, and we have Liz and Ann as usual. And I'm really excited to introduce our special guest. This is Jason Woods. He's the president of the DC Firefighter Burn Foundation, and he is here to discuss what he does on the day-to-day and how the Firefighter Burn Foundation has worked with children for over the years. So Jason, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do for your regular job, and what do you do with the Firefighter Burn Foundation?
All right, with my regular job, I've been a firefighter with DC Fire for almost 23 years. Currently in our risk management and safety office, or health and safety office, where I work as a chief's aide there. As far as the foundation, I've been the president of the foundation since 2004 when we started the foundation.
So you were you helped start the foundation, or?
I did.
Okay, and what is the DC Firefighter Burn Foundation?
So back in 2004, a couple of us were looking around, and we saw New York, a couple other cities had firefighter burn foundations. We didn't really know what they were, but we knew that we sent 20, 25 of our members a year to MedStar, to the burn unit. So a couple of us got together, approached the department, approached our firefighters union, getting their blessings about starting a foundation. We reached out to the New York City Firefighters Burn Center Foundation to ask if they would kind of give us some direction, and they did. So we chartered in 2004, and originally the goal of the foundation was to just support the families of firefighters who were injured and in the burn unit, as well as providing burn camp opportunities for kids that had been burned. So we started the burn camp partnership in 2005. So about 18 years we've been doing burn camp. And obviously since 2004, it's kind of evolved into a little more. So we helped fund the renovation of the rehab gym next door at MedStar Washington Hospital Center. In 2009, I believe, our members not only funded the construction of the Firefighters Surgical Research Institute at MedStar Washington Hospital Center, they also, a few of our guys went and actually did the construction on it to make that come to light. We have evolved into a lot of the money that we raise nowadays goes to survivor support programs, where the burn teams at MedStar Washington Hospital Center, as well as Children's National, do a great job at saving patients. So what we want to do is to ensure that they have a great quality of life once they're out of the treatment process and getting back into the real world. So we fund, as far as survivor support programs, we do burn camp, which is kids ages 8 to 18. We get the kids mostly from Children's Hospital. It used to be from Shriners, but we're happy that you guys are keeping most of your burns now at Children's. So we work with your team there to get a list of kids every year. We're always looking for staff to get involved in burn camp. Liz did it a number of years ago for a year. I was a counselor for 10 years. The camp's an amazing experience. So any kid ages 8 to 18 from the DC area who has been burned, we will pay and send them to camp. We have our scholarships that we do for World Burn Congress, which we are hosting here in the nation's capital or national capital region this October. So we are looking to not only fund about, I think, 30 patients and their family members from MedStar Washington Hospital Center to attend. We're also working with your PTOT group on identifying some patients and their families from Children's. We started in 2009, 2010, offering adaptive sports programs out in Colorado, where we'll take patients usually 16 to 60, 70 years old, and we'll do a spring and summer trip where we're kind of really taking them out of their comfort zone. Summertime can be anything from rock climbing to mountain biking to hiking some pretty high altitude peaks out there. Winter could be anything from downhill skiing to cross country skiing to ice climbing. And then 2010, we started our Firefighter Burn Survivors Week in Colorado, where we take firefighters from around the US and Canada, and we do a week just specific to firefighter burn survivors. Yeah, so we kind of went from just providing support for firefighters and their families in camp to really focusing a lot more on the survivor support end of things. And then working with MedStar over the years, as well as Children's National, we also saw a need for the burn programs to have some funding to buy equipment, provide training for staff that sometimes gets cut out of budgets. So we want to make sure that the teams that we're working with have as many opportunities as they can to further their careers, which not only helps them, but it helps provide better patient care, we believe. So that's a little bit about the foundation. And
yeah, it's really amazing how you started out taking care of your own, which, being in the fire service, it is a big family, and you got to take care of your own. And then you really branched out to anybody who's experienced a burn. What made you interested in working with children? I mean, it's so different, kids are.
So it is. I mean, everybody likes kids, right? Like,
yeah.
Firemen like kids. Everybody likes kids. We, aside from the burn camp program, probably 2004, about the time we started the foundation, I got involved with children's as a patient care volunteer and did that for a number of years, probably 8 or 9 years. And then just life got pretty busy with the foundation and the department and other things going on in life that I really couldn't keep up with the commitment that I felt I should be putting into children's as a patient care volunteer. So stepped away from that. And I believe that's maybe when I met Liz, because I've known her for a while. So I did that for a number of years, and through that just started building the relationships and partnerships with the burn team or surgical care team there at Children's. So we had done some research grants through our foundation for Children's back before 2010, 2011, I believe. Obviously, started working with you guys as far as burn camp. We had some staff members from surgical care who would go to camp with us. And then I think probably, what has it been? Maybe since 2016, 2017, when the relationship really kind of just took off. And, one of our goals was seeing Children's have the ability to keep the majority of burn patients here in the National Capital Region. As firefighters, we're risking our life to go out and to save people. And we want to make sure that they're getting the best chance at survival afterwards. And, Boston Shriners is a great hospital. They have an amazing program, and it's amazing that it really costs the families nothing. But with burn care, it's for a child. I mean, as you guys know, that's kind of a long process. It's not just an in and out. And we started meeting kids from camp from the DC area who would be going back and forth all the time to Shriners for surgeries. And that was putting some strains on their families. So we just felt that, being the nation's capital, we should have a pediatric burn unit here that could really provide for our kids from this area. And Children's was willing to take on that commitment. We were willing to support it. And we're just proud of what you guys have done. And it's easy for us to want to go out and fundraise and to seek funds to support a program that has really taken off with the interest of providing burn care. And so it's kind of how we got to where we are today.
Yeah, it's I've seen the program grow since I started with trauma and burn just in 2015. And and that's one of the big reasons why you're here today, Jason, is I really want our staff to know, like, this strong collaboration that we have and how grateful we are. I mean, there's been countless conferences, especially to ABA, that you guys have funded for all different parts of our staff. Like, it's truly like multidisciplinary, because burns are tricky. It's not like a broken arm that you put in a cast and then, in a couple months it comes off and everything's fine. Like, sometimes these things are like long lasting. Liz and Ann, do you have any questions you want to ask or anything you want to say about, like, the involvement of the Burn Foundation and like your experiences. And Liz, I want to hear about your experience at camp. I think because a lot of people don't. I don't think
She
a lot
was
of people
voted
know.
the best dressed counselor that year.
Oh,
That's
And that
shocking.
was the first time we gave
Surprise,
that award out.
surprise.
no, it was terrific. So so I started with the trauma burn service as an NP, as a brand new NP in 2009. And that was, I think, one of my first assignments to go to burn camp up in Connecticut. And I just have to say, I was so impressed by the generosity of the firefighters and their time and their connection to these kids. And just how brave the kids were. And I almost felt like that, having brave firefighters around, they kind of, fed off each other. So again, it was a very moving experience, rustic experience, but again, really moving, again, just to see the dedication that you all have to this population. And again, the ongoing dedication, because, these kids aren't going just for one summer, they're going to picnics throughout the year. And if they're not quite ready for sleepaway camp, there are special luncheons. It's like, you guys think of everything. And really is such a resource for our families.
So are all of the staff at burn camp, are they firefighters or like burn nurses? Like, how does that work?
Combination. So the entire staff at camp is volunteer and they're from the burn community. So I would say 50-50 firefighters from, so the camp is a partnership mostly with DC Fire. Then we jump up to New Jersey and the New Jersey firefighters from around the state, the New York City Firefighters Foundation, Connecticut Firefighters Burn Foundation, Boston Firefighters Burn Foundation, Portland, Maine, and I'm missing one, Providence Firefighters. So it's kind of DC, and then we skip up to Jersey and cover all of New England. But the entire camp staff, one of the things that drew us up there was the entire camp staff as either firefighters for the burn community. So NPs, nurses, PTs, OTs, social workers, burn survivors, which I think is a great thing, right? They can relate to the kids more than the rest of us. There are two camps in Virginia that are both about 2 hours from here. And I had some involvement with both of them prior to us choosing the children's burn camp in Connecticut. And it just wasn't the same experience. It was a smaller camp and camp staff. They're both great programs, but they were offered at a summer camp that could be a church camp one week, the following week could be a burn camp. And then so the staff that was there, the cooks were whoever was working for the camp for the summer, the lifeguards were whoever was working for the camp for the summer, the ropes course is the same thing. And the unique thing about the children's burn camp is the lifeguards are all firefighters or nurses or therapists who have went and got their certification. The archery staff, same thing. High ropes at the camps in Virginia, and again, not taking anything away from them, they may get ropes 1 or 2 days, where our ropes staff is all firefighters who have went and got certified. Yeah. And it's a week-long process. So they every day will do something different in the ropes course to challenge themselves and build themselves up to do something really cool and amazing at the end of the week. So we just felt that the experiences at the children's burn camp were what we wanted to offer the kids in the DC area. And we've had patients from children's reach out and say, hey, we know that you're sending our son or daughter to the Connecticut burns camp or the children's burn camp Connecticut. Are they also able to attend one of the other two in Virginia? And our answer is always absolutely, right? Like, we don't necessarily support them financially or participate in the programs that they do, but we believe in the programs that they do. And any experience a kid can get would be great. So yeah, that's the unique thing about the children's burn camp is everybody is from the burn world. Cooks, there are probably 6 or 8 kitchen staff that week that are firefighters or nurses or someone from the burn world. They're cooking 160 meals 3 times a day. So they're up in the morning cooking breakfast way before everybody gets down there. Then they're flipping for lunch and then doing dinner for everybody. So one of the other unique things that I think with the children's burn camp, we mentioned that kids from the DC area used to go to Shriners in Boston. While we're happy that we're keeping our kids here, one of the unique experiences is Boston Shriners has a lot of international kids that they would send to camp. So they would bring these kids into Boston in the summertime for their surgeries that were scheduled. and they would do it around camp time. So we were getting kids from the Ukraine, from Russia, we were getting kids from Vietnam, Jordan, like, so it's pretty neat seeing, some of the kids here from DC that were getting exposed to kids from all over the world. And that was just fun to watch in itself.
Yeah.
They're sharing the experience of all being burn survivors, but then they're making friends with these kids that are truly from, like, we had a kid one year whose dad was a prince in Jordan, I believe. So yeah, it's we had two kids, one from Russia and one from the Ukraine that was in my group the last year I was there, and two different countries. And obviously that was before what's going on now between those two countries, but they had never met each other and were like best friends that week by the end of the week. So
because you have kids from all over the country at the burn camp, do you have interpreters, or like, how does that work if there's a language barrier?
You get a bunch of firemen who most of us are just struggling with proper English sometimes. Not really. We have several staff members who can speak Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the other languages, it's kind of, I think we had in the years, so again, I haven't been in a number of years to camp as a counselor, but we had a kid from Vietnam, a young girl one year, who spoke very minimal English, but we were able to work through it that week. It's kind of compromising. So, but yeah, it's kind of hard finding, I guess, interpreters for all the different languages that would be coming in there. But thankfully, most of the kids spoke some English.
Yeah. And, there's the language of just even facial expressions, and feel like people know that they're safe when they're in
The
a
language
safe
of
place.
loss, when a kid's talking to you and you don't understand when you're looking at them, they can usually pick up on that pretty quick. And
Yeah.
like, this guy has no idea what I'm talking about. Where did they send me?
Yeah. But it's really interesting because it sometimes it doesn't even matter. And I feel like in burn camp, that's one of the times that you can communicate without a lot of words sometimes. I mean, it's a shared experience.
Well, and what we were looking for was the smiles, right, from these kids. And that that's a pretty universal language there. So whatever we could do to get to the smiles, what we would work towards.
And so is it any kid from children's ages 8 to 18 that you support going to that?
That have been burned. We normally
Right.
look for kids over 10% total body surface area burns, just because, I mean, we have kids there that are 90% burn, right? So having a kid who maybe has a small dime-sized burn on their hand, injuries are all traumatic to people in different ways, whether it's adults or child or kids. But we're looking more for something that's, a little significant burn that these kids can relate to each other.
Absolutely. And I think that's why and when you're in burn clinic, do you keep it like a running tally of like who to talk to the foundation about?
Yeah, we have our weekly multidisciplinary burn rounds meeting, and I think that as we discuss patients, where they are in their process of treatment and how they're kind of coping with their process of treatment. If they are a candidate, we flag them. One of our occupational therapists keeps the running list, but we will refer patients if we find that this would be a great fit for them. I mean, it's such a wonderful program, and our patients really enjoy it. So we're always trying to see if this would be a good opportunity for patients who kind of meet what Jason's talking about.
And all we ask is the parents to fill out the forms and to meet us the day of. We pay for all the expenses, so we either fly the kids up or we bus the kids up with staff. We don't just stick them on a bus by themselves. But we cover all costs. We provide every kid with a brand new sleeping bag. Other foundations don't do that from the Northeast, just because kids aren't going as far. But for us, especially when we're flying them, the less stuff we have to deal with, the better. So we buy brand new sleeping bags and pillows for each of the kids. We'll give it to them. We've had kids show up with literally a change of clothes for an entire week. So I think, Liz, you ended up on a Walmart trip with me when you were up there.
So yeah.
Because I knew nothing about buying kids clothes. So Walmart's half an hour from the camp, and off we go. So Liz was happy there was a Starbucks there also, I think. So out of the rustic environment of camp. But We don't ask questions. We just need them to fill out the forms. And after that, we'll take care of anything. And most of the kids were happy to see return to camp the following year. They have a good experience with it. The IAFF, which is our parent union for the firefighters, host a camp here in DC every fall. And what they do is they take a kid or a camper and a counselor from each of the 54 burn camps in the US and Canada and bring them to DC for a week. And it's not really a camp experience. It's more of a, let's see what DC has to offer. And for a lot of these kids, that's the only chance they're ever going to have to come here and to see their nation's capital. So, well, for the Canadians, it's not their capital, but they wished it was. So, we're happy that, like, over the past couple of years, we've had 3 children's or patients from Children's who have been selected as counselor or camper of the year. And even though they live here, I mean, I've lived here almost 23 years. You're getting to do some things with this camp that most people who live here never get to see or experience. So, but last year, Araceli, one of the URL's patients there from Children's, was counselor or camper of the year and got chosen to represent the camp. So,
such a cool experience.
yes.
Liz or Ann, could you tell like a story about like a kiddo that you were seeing in the clinic and then they went to camp and then you saw them afterwards? Can you talk about like the change or like their perspective of like how they were in burn clinic? Were they like less scared or did they come back empowered? Because I feel like that might be kind of some of the stuff that Jason hasn't even really gotten to hear a whole lot of. He could see it firsthand, but like hearing what it really translates to into a clinic setting would be.
My most recent memory is a patient who was signed up for camp and then kind of maybe almost dropped out beforehand and wasn't really sure that they wanted to go and reached out to us with some concerns or was just really nervous about the experience for their first time. And when they came back, their mom emailed us with a photo of how wonderful they were. They were on the news. They conquered their fears. They were doing archery. I mean, it was just such an empowering experience. And then she said, I'm going to both camps next year, like sign me up. This is great. And really, it was so wonderful to see someone who had truly been struggling beforehand and was worried about kind of, this was their first incorporation into the burn survivor world, I think, to really get them linked up with that group and to feel like this was an empowering experience. And one that without hesitation, they wanted to return to. So that to me was like a really remarkable exchange, both seeing our before exchange and our after exchange.
And we've seen, patients make connections with other patients. We heard stories last summer about patients wanting to always continue to go to camp and become a counselor. So yeah, it's, every step of the way, it's tremendous.
Yeah.
And we've had a few kids over the years who have kind of bailed last minute, but it's asking a lot of a kid who is going to a strange place with strange people and not having their parents. Some adults have a problem with that, right? So having a kid take that leap of faith and say, okay, well, I'll go get on a plane with a bunch of people I don't know and spend a week out in the woods. It's not as rustic as Liz puts on. We do have electricity and running water. So in my opinion, that's not rustic, but I mean, it takes a brave kid and it takes a parent also who is like, okay, like we're going to trust these people with my kid for a week.
Right.
But I don't think it's really the firefighter's name. I hope it is somewhat, but I really think it's the fact that Children's supports this, and it's Children's is a hospital that they've learned to trust with their child since an injury has occurred. And when your team is saying, hey, like this is a safe place for your kids, it's a good opportunity, that really helps maybe overcome some of those barriers. But yeah, it's not unusual for us sometimes to have 1 or 2 kids last minute not follow through, and that's okay. The same thing happens with the trips that we do for adults to Colorado or to World Burn. So we don't see it as somebody just like flaking or wasting our money on a plane ticket. Again, it's a huge leap of faith for someone who's already been through a traumatic experience.
Yeah. That's a great way to look at it. Yeah.
You spoke a little bit about World Burn Congress. I don't think a whole lot of our staff has ever heard about that. Can you talk a little bit about like what that is and how the foundation works with them?
I can't. So World Burn Congress is a annual conference that's hosted by the Phoenix Society. Prior to COVID, there were around 800 to 900 attendees at the conference. Predominantly burn survivors from around mostly the US and Canada, but some international participants. But then there was a fair amount of firefighters, nurses, psychosocial staff from burn units who attended as well. Prior to COVID, we were happy since 2008. We were sending the largest group of burn survivors to World Burn from any burn unit in the country.
Wow.
From children's, Stephanie and Stacy would identify a couple of patients and their parents. We would, send them. And what the conference works on is kind of the psychosocial piece of being a burn survivor. So I'm not as familiar with some of the pediatric programs that they have there. It's one of the programs I know that we have funded over the years through sponsorship is called You Belong, which is focused mainly on the kids and their parents. But for the adults, it's everything from how to build relationships, like romantic relationships after a burn injury, how to deal with people staring at you, how to go back to work. And I remember the first time we were invited, it was being hosted in Baltimore, and myself and a couple of guys from the foundation went up to volunteer at World Burn. We took 2 firefighters from DC who had both been significantly burned in the line of duty. Joe Morgan, who just came on our board of directors. Joe was burned in 1998, about 65% of his body in a fire that 2 other firefighters were killed in. So we took Joe with us, and then actually not Dino Mahaffey, it was a firefighter from Montgomery County. I'll think of his name in a second, but we took them to kind of like, hey, what's your take on this? And for me, it was kind of uncomfortable because, I got asked to monitor the door and then sit in on a workshop that was focused on building sexual relationships following a burn injury.
Oh, wow.
So I'm like, I know I can sit out in the hall, and they're like, no, come in. And it was kind of an eye-opening experience for me because I'm like, I'm not really into the touchy-feely thing. But what we took out of that week was we had 2 firefighters who looked at us and said, Jason, this stuff's real. Like, we've been dealing with this since we were burned. We've had nobody to talk to. So that kind of sold it for us. And we've been lucky since then that our foundation has been able to send upwards of 30 some burn survivors and their and a family member to World Burn each year. So we're hosting it. This will be the first year it's going to be back in person since COVID. It's been virtual the past couple of years, and I think everybody kind of got over the whole virtual experience and we're ready to move back in person. So it's being hosted at the Gaylord National Harbor. We're happy to be one of the key sponsors for the event. I know Stephanie has been talking to Rebecca, who runs all of our survivor support stuff for Washington Hospital Center. And I think she's identified a number of families that we are looking to sponsor. Even though it's here in DC or in the DC area, we're still going to pay for the hotel because we all know what DC traffic could be like.
Oh, yeah.
World Burn is a long day. So we want people to actually get the conference experience and not worrying about getting on the road or if they're going to be late or paying for parking in a parking garage. But we would love to have some of the children's staff join us. We are happy to pay for your registration if you want to participate. We're looking for volunteers to help, whether it's for a day or a couple of days, but it's the first time we'll be hosting it here in the Washington region, and probably won't be back here for a while. So we would love as many children's staff as who would like to get involved to come and help us really be good hosts since it's here locally.
Absolutely. So if people want to be involved, what do they need to do?
Reach out to me.
Okay.
Or Stephanie there with your PTOT group.
Okay.
Is the one who's really kind of heading up your survivor support programs now.
Okay. I'm going to put this as a line underneath.
Yeah. So Stephanie and I are both on the planning committee for Phoenix Society. So
okay.
She's very involved, which we're happy to see someone from children's on the planning committee. I think that's awesome. Okay. She's been to World Burn a number of times. So I really, she's definitely a great resource for your patients there, and hopefully someone we can keep around for a long time.
And then if are you still recruiting for this summer for burn camp?
We are.
Okay, so
We would
what
just
type
need
of
to
specialty do you-
know probably, I would say mid-May. No,
Okay,
I'm lying. Early April, who is interested in being a counselor. We're always looking for counselors, and I'm not sure. I don't know that Children's gives paid time off for camp.
I don't think that they do, but we do
Hopefully at
have
some point we
vacation
can
time.
leverage that with
Yeah,
maybe a
that would be
It's like
great.
something we should work on. Yeah.
Yes.
You know,
So
maybe
some-
that is something we could work on. I mean, honestly, I think that like that's giving back. It's definitely part of children's like
But you're also
mission.
representing children's, right?
Right.
And you're doing something that you're kind of going above and beyond to see this patient really get the best opportunity after their injury.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, maybe that's something that we could work on and leverage, because I think that'd be a great idea. And I think you'd have a lot of people if they could have the time to do it. And I think it's feel like it's an
So
experience.
in it,
I haven't
oh,
done it.
sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, in addition to volunteering at camp or World Burn, how can people support the foundation?
So we have this thing called the Night at the Wharf coming up. May
Oh, sounds
6th.
fun.
I think most of your staff enjoys a good night out, and adult beverages and food, all you can eat, all you can drink, live music. And the money that we raise off that night goes back to support the burn program at Children's National. So that is a great way to support the foundation while you're going out and having fun at the same time.
What's that date, Jason?
May 6th.
And when are tickets? When does the
Tickets are on sale now.
Okay. I'm gonna put a link.
We have about
Yeah.
60 left. So
Okay.
tickets have done pretty well this year.
Yeah, that is good. Only 60.
Yeah. And it's at a
Um,
new location. We're not at the Eastern Market anymore. So we have a pretty nice venue. It's the top of the Washington Gas Building at 1000 Main Avenue Southeast or Southwest at the Wharf. So yeah, we're looking forward to having this back in person. Well, actually, we didn't do a virtual gala, so we're just happy to relaunch it. But much nicer venue, I think, than the Eastern Market. We're not as packed in. Amazing views. We have a lot of outdoor area as well for people to hang out. So we have 8 different local restaurants from DC that are doing the food stations, open bar. We have a live band as in the past, silent auction. So,
All right.
and we can also send you the link, which I actually think you have, or you can go to our website and find tickets there.
And if also another way to support the DC Firefighter Burn Foundation is
Swag.
some swag. And I think it's cute. It's got the DC flag thing.
So the new
Yeah.
stuff, we just did the new hoodies. We did the hoodie and the
Good.
zip up hoodie, as well as some long sleeve t-shirts. And we decided to put the DC flag on there this time. So
I like it.
yeah, those can be purchased from our website as well. We have some other events, thankfully we're out of COVID-ish, I think, maybe, hopefully. We're back to doing in-person stuff. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
we are working on getting our bowling tournament back up and going, which a lot of your staff used to participate in. That is probably going to be in October of this year. Our Rocklands event will be in September of this year, I think September 16th, I believe. So we're getting back to in-person fundraising, but getting involved with us doesn't mean you have to spend money. We are really hoping that we're going to be at a spot to maybe sit down in the next month or two and talk with your team about doing the fall event that we used to do every October there in Children's at the Atrium.
Yeah. I've been working with hospital administration about doing that event. We started with hopes to do it last year, and they were still really hesitant with having like a large gathering in one space indoors. So we're definitely working on it. And I've also thought about maybe doing it in the healing garden, so it's outdoors. And it's a lovely space. October's a little chilly for that outdoor space, but we've definitely have been keeping our thinking caps on of like how to get Burn Prevention Day back at Children's, because I think it's a great event. And
well, Burn Prevention Day, some other ways is we're back to doing some of our in-person survivor support programs. So A number of years ago, we haven't done it in a while. A number of years ago, we used to take the kids once a year down to the fireboat by the Washington Channel or the wharf and do a day down there. We would do a barbecue lunch with them. We would take them out on the big boat, the Glen, for a ride. We would have park police come down with the helicopter, the horses, motorcycles for the kids. So we're looking at trying to get that back up and rolling as well. So we're always looking for people to get involved, especially with our survivor support programs. We would love to increase the number of opportunities of things we can do for kids throughout the year here, where we can do local things, in addition to doing burn camp in the summer or World Burn in the fall. So
Yeah, and did we do like mini burn camp? It was like a day. We did that.
we did,
years
and
back, that was really popular.
yeah, I mean, I would like to see us get back to doing those things. So we're all about being back in person. It's just now trying to pick up the pieces of everything we were doing before and kind of get them back on the table. But yeah, there's certainly plenty of ways that you can get involved with us and support the burn program. We don't want it to feel like work. If you're coming to do something on your day off, we don't want you to feel like you're at work. So we promise it'll be a little fun. And again, just interacting with the kids in a different setting than the hospital.
And I think that Jason, I really like the way you said it, of like, you can support, you don't need to pay anything to support, but just being interested and even learning more about the program or participating in an event. I think that when you are doing this work with who we're doing it for, you kind of like, it reignites that passion inside of you and really makes you excited not to just come to work, but to like do more for this special community. So
yeah, I think I missed doing camp. I did it for 10 years. I didn't find it as rustic as some people, so I thought it was okay. But I would encourage everybody to try camp. And we have firefighters who are like, you don't understand, my wife and I have a kid. Well, the majority of people at camp have families. So it's just putting things aside for 1 week and you get a break from your kids and you get to take care of 80 some other kids. But
when is camp? When is camp?
Camp is usually the third week of July.
All right.
Actually, I'm lying. It got moved this year to September. The camp that we had been using for years just got bought.
Oh.
And not by us, unfortunately. So we are moving to a new location for a year while we are trying to find all the foundations that are involved in camp are actively looking for a property now to purchase to make our own. Actually, there's one that just came into my email today that I've got to look at. So it is a little later this year. I'm lying. It is in September. It's not in July, but it's normally the third week of July. But I think it's a great experience. I miss doing it. We can always make excuses as to why we don't want to do something, but I know very few people who have actually went and not enjoyed camp, even if they only go for a year. Life can get busy and we understand that, but I would encourage everybody just to try it. It is a great experience.
Yeah. Well, that's good to know. And if they're interested, should they talk to Stephanie or should they talk
to Stephanie, talk to me?
Okay.
Dave Keefe is the firefighter who runs our burn camp programs.
Okay.
So I can also provide you with Dave's information. He's the one who your team works with the kids as well. So Dave is our camp guy.
Well, Jason, I can't tell you how happy I am that you were able to take time for us today. At the end of all of our BurnCasts, I always ask the same question. I'll answer it first so you guys can think. So my question is, what would you want a staff nurse at Children's to walk away with after hearing this today? Like, what do you want them to know about the DC Firefighter Burn Foundation? And I'll answer first. From working in this department since 2015, in my background in the fire service before I came to Children's, it is like the biggest blessing to work with this group and how passionate they are about our kids and what they've done for our kids. So like being a bedside nurse for the longest time, I never really saw what happened afterwards. I had no idea that these injuries were like these lifelong things that these kids had to deal with and grow and live with, and like how hard it was for the parents. But because of the DC Firefighter Burn Foundation, I think that they're able to help us, like, not only make sure that the patient is healed, but the family is healed and they have like a better future. And I really think that we're able to do that so much better because of the Firefighter Burn Foundation. So if you see them, wave, smile, and say thank you. All right, Anne, you're up.
I think I just want to, well, my first thing is just show my appreciation for Jason and everybody at the foundation for everything that they do for our patients and for our program. And then I think for nurses, because that's your question, was what would our audience take out of this? I think my biggest take home point is that there are ways to get involved in helping these burn patients after we see them in the hospital, and that a lot of times this can be a lifelong injury for some of these patients, and that there's a lot of support out there, and that we can, with or without monetary donations involved, you can get involved by volunteering, by being part of everything that we've talked about today, by attending the gala, by going to Rockland's events, things like that. But that there is a way to continue to impact the lives of these children that we've taken care of during their acute phase of their injury.
Liz.
I just think it's so neat. Nurses can just look all around the hospital and see the work that the foundation has done. It's the PT gym on 5 East. It's the after the burn videos that are ordered for every admitted patient. So Jason, you guys have done such wonders for our patients and our families. And again, we can't thank you enough. And I will also say we were so appreciative during COVID. Firefighters used to drop off lunch for the staff as well too. I mean, so again, they care for everyone, patients, families, healthcare providers. So again, you guys are the best.
Well, Jason, I really hope you're feeling the love today.
Well, first of all, I'm going to say, Liz, nurses are no different than firefighters. You can always make them happy by giving them a little food. So, especially on, a lot of your nurses are like a lot of our busier firehouses, where it's sometimes just having something handy to eat as you're rushing, and you can't even really sit down and enjoy it, just kind of helps the day go by a little bit. So I would just like the nurses to know, thank you. We really appreciate it. You guys make it easy for us to want to support you financially and for the aftercare programs. The team at Children's is amazing. From the PTs, OTs, the mid-levels, Dr. Bird is just, an awesome guy to work with. Your leadership supports you. I would want the nurses to know that. And I would say just try getting involved in an aftercare program, even if it's just temporarily, seeing what the kids kind of are dealing with once they get out of the hospital and they're back into the real world. And I think it kind of helps you see things go full circle sometimes. And I don't know of anybody, whether it's a firefighter, a PT, a OT, a nurse, a doctor who's gotten involved in some of our aftercare programs who haven't had positive experiences out of it.
Yeah. Well, and with that, I think we can wrap up for today. And again, Jason, thank you so much for coming. And
thank you, ladies.
It's always good to see you guys. And thanks everybody for watching.